Play It Today, Lesson 24. Let's start this lesson by looking at the first page of your booklet, page 277. There you'll find a reminder of chromatic scales and 2 questions to try to answer. When you've read through the page and practiced the scales, turn your cassette on again and we'll give you the answers to the questions. For question number 1, soft is piano, moderately loud is mezzo forte, loud is forte, and very loud is fortissimo. And question 2, a gradual increase in loudness is shown by 2 lines diverging in a widening V shape. Or it can be indicated by the word crescendo, or its shortened form cresh, C-R-E-S-C. The next page of your booklet, page 278, is a reminder of the notes on the stave and how they relate to the keyboard, with a special section for those of you who have an electronic instrument with 2 keyboards. It's well worth making sure you can read all the written notes easily and accurately, so do spend some time on this if there are any notes you're not entirely sure of. You've been playing semiquavers for some time now, but you haven't yet run into the semiquaver rest. In fact, you can see what this rest looks like at the top of page 279. It doesn't pose any special problems, but here are 2 exercises to get you used to recognizing it. The first is exercise 256 in 2/4 time. Exercise 257 is in 4/4 time. Our solo piece for this lesson is Mozart's Minuet in F. You'll notice that it starts with triplets in the right hand. If you're not sure about what triplets are and how they work, take a look back at lesson 20, where they're explained for you. The mixture of crotchets, triplets and semiquavers in the right-hand part can make this minuet quite tricky, so we better take a closer look at how it goes. The piece is in 3/4 time, and the left hand mostly provides a steady rhythm with a note on each of the 3 beats of the bar. Sometimes the left-hand notes are crotchets played legato, and sometimes they're quavers separated by a quaver rest, giving a sort of staccato effect. Either way, the left hand is fairly straightforward. But the right hand, as we've said, isn't so simple. In the first bar, for instance, it has 3 notes to each beat. Then 1 note to each beat in the second bar, 4 notes for the first beat of the third bar, and so on. To get this right, you really need to count the rhythm carefully. But counting isn't so easy when you have such a mix of different notes. Let's look at what happens when you have a bar of crotchets, followed by a bar of triplets, and then a bar of semiquavers. The counting would go like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, dabba, 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 dabba. Now let's try counting the first 4 bars of the minuet. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and dabba, dabba, 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and... Listening to the tape will be an enormous help to you in getting this right, since you'll rarely be able to hear how it's meant to sound. Don't be confused by the triplet rests that first occur in bar 9, halfway down the first page. Just count the triplets as usual. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, with the rest corresponding to each 1 and notes played on each 2 and 3. While you're concentrating on the rhythm, don't forget the B-flat key signature. Watch out for the accidentals, especially the natural signs, and follow the fingering very carefully as it's written. So here is the Minuet in F, played, as you'll notice, without the repeat of the last section. Exercise 258, in G major, includes some bars that have to be played with crossed hands. Take a look at bar 16, at the end of the first line of music on the second page. You can see that the right-hand part is in the bass clef here. So the right-hand notes are B and G, an octave below the notes being played by the left hand. The right hand has to actually cross over the top of the left hand to play these notes further down the keyboard. The D in bar 17 is played in the same way. But then the right hand returns to its usual position for the notes in the treble clef in bars 18 and 19. Bars 20 and 21, 24 and 25, and 28 and 29 are also played with the hands crossed. Playing with crossed hands doesn't involve any very special technique. Just keep your body still and reach across with your arm, making sure your hand stays in the correct position on the keyboard. But although it's basically quite simple, most people find it does take some getting used to at first. So play the exercise over and over until you feel quite comfortable performing with crossed hands. Here is exercise 258. The next set of exercises involve playing chords as arpeggios that spread across an octave. This is a very important skill for a keyboard player to master, so we've given you plenty of examples to work through. As you can see, each chord is played in its root position, then in the first inversion, second inversion, and finally in the root position again an octave above the start. Every part of the exercise is meant to be played with each hand separately, first with the right hand and then with the left. For the left hand, play the notes an octave lower than they're written, using the fingering beneath the notes. Only the first exercise, exercise 259, is written out in full, with 3 different ways of playing the C major chord in arpeggios, marked A, B and C. Here's how exercise 259A should sound. Now here's 259B in triplets. C is in 6/8 time, with two groups of 6 semiquavers to each bar. All the exercises that follow are meant to be played in the same 3 ways. First as quavers in 4/4 time, then as triplets, also in 4/4, and finally as semiquavers in 6/8 time. However, we'll only be playing the first version on the tape, the one that's printed in the booklet. The most important thing to remember about playing arpeggios is to keep your wrist flexible and relaxed. The trick is to rotate your wrist slightly as you play, from left to right going up the keyboard and from right to left going down. In fact, the movement of your wrist should be a bit like when you open or close the lid of a jam jar. This turning movement will help your fingers manage the wide spread of the arpeggio smoothly and comfortably. Try it in the same way with your right hand and your left. Here's exercise 260, the D minor chord. Exercise 261 is the D major chord. Exercise 262 is the chord of E minor. Exercise 263, the chord of F major. Exercise 264, the G major chord. Exercise 265, the chord of A minor. And finally, exercise 266, the B minor chord. You've already met the chords on the C major scale in Lesson 21, and on the G major scale in Lesson 23. Now, in exercise 267, you have the chance to make the chords on 5 more scales: D major, A major, F major, B flat major, and E flat major. These we're going to leave you to work out for yourselves. Just play or write down the chords on each of the first 6 degrees of each scale, taking into account the key signature. Remember the rule that there's a major chord on the first, 4th and 5th degrees of any major scale, and a minor chord on the 2nd, 3rd and 6th degrees. Don't worry that you might make some mistakes in working out these chords, by the way. You'll be given the correct versions of all of them in the next lesson. Our piece with backing for this lesson is Dvorak's Slavonic Dance, number 10, opus 72. The Slavonic Dance is not in G major, as you would expect from the F-sharp key signature, but actually in E minor. We'll get on to the question of these minor keys later in the course. For the moment, it makes no practical difference to playing the piece. The E sharp is the same as an F natural, as we'll be explaining at the end of this lesson. And you'll notice that the first section of the piece is played twice. So, let's hear the Slavonic Dance with keyboard and backing. Now here it is without the keyboard part. We're going to end the lesson with a look at some new aspects of sharps and flats on page 288 of your booklet. When you were first introduced to sharps and flats, it was as the names of the black keys. But in fact, a sharp or a flat doesn't necessarily have to be a black key at all. As you know, a sharp sign raises a note by one semitone, and a flat lowers it by a semitone. And you also know that the white keys E and F are only a semitone apart, as are B and C also. So, if we put a sharp sign in front of E, raising it a semitone, we get an F. E sharp is another name for the white key F, F natural. By the same token, F flat is another name for the white key E. B sharp is the same as C, and C flat is the same as B. You don't need to understand for the moment precisely why we sometimes use C flat instead of the identical B, or E sharp instead of simple F. All you need is to recognize them when you see them. In the bottom half of page 288, there are two accidentals that are new to you. A double sharp, like a cross, and a double flat, two flats together. Very logically, a double sharp has the effect of two sharps together, so it raises a note by two semitones or one whole tone. G double sharp is the same as A. D double sharp equals E, and so on. Similarly, a double flat lowers a note by a whole tone. B double flat is the same as A, G double flat is F, and so on. You'll get plenty of opportunity in the future to become more familiar with these new signs as you go along.